Well, hello, I'm Mike Naylor, and we're going to talk to two superb guitarists, Paul Gardner and Alan Warner. Paul was part of the 60s beat scene in North London. He joined a band called The Select, which was produced by the legendary Joe Meek. Then he was part of a band called Jack's Union that morphed into Rainbow Reflection, who supported the likes of David Bowie, The Who, Joe Cocker and Mark Bolan. And then he founded the band Dry Ice. And their songs have been remastered from original Lost Master tapes, and it's available to order through Secret Records. Well, Alan learned to play the guitar when he was quite young, and at the age of 13 was in an instrumentals only group. He then joined a band in '62 called the Trekkers, then the Dwellers that toured US air bases, then the Lee-Siders sect, and then he got into the soul sound, joining the Ramon sound, the Foundation sound that then changed into the Foundations, who of course enjoyed great chart success in the late 60s, including the #1, Baby Now That I Found You. But when the Foundations split, Alan and Paul founded the rock band Pluto. They only released one album in '71, and 50 years later, a new album has come out with basically new material and some bonus tracks recorded live, which is called Journey's End. So we want to talk about Dry Ice and Pluto. Firstly, Alan, what sort of a sound in the '70s when you started out were you aiming to have really with Pluto?
Well, we wanted to write our own songs, so we had all original stuff. It's going to be quite a mixture, really. A bit of rock, bit of blues, get into the progressive kind of, maybe a bit of psychedelic or whatever. It was just up for ideas, really, and anything that sounded interesting, we would try it out.
So, Paul, you were pretty much experimenting along the way, because this progressive rock scene, or underground music as it was also known, was only just beginning, wasn't it?
Well, I've been right through the underground thing at Middle Earth, Perfume Garden gigs, playing with people like the Floyd, Bolan and that, as a three-piece power trio. Then we advertised for another guitarist, and Alan answered. And then when we met, and we went round to his house in Edgware, and he said, "Oh, he's with the Foundations." So I had to give him a bit of a slap round the back of the head and say, "Well, we're not having any of that stuff here. We're doing like hard rock sort of stuff, And when we started, I did have to give Alan a bit of a push. I think I didn't have too many songs written, but as I pushed him, he soon got into it. And by the time we got into the Pi Studios, we had our fair share of songs to record.
You had Mick Worth on the bass, who was a former car salesman, and Derek Jervis on drums. So sort of as a unit, did you gel straight away as a band, and you were really pleased with what it sounded like in rehearsal?
I remember when Mick came round, it was quite funny really, because Mick came round, he had a long wheelbase Transit, and he was playing a Fender Precision through 4 Marshall speakers. We had a bit of a jam, and when he went, me and Alan said, he's a bit busy, because he played bass a bit like a
lead guitar.
But then we said, but he's got a Transit and Marshall cabinets, and we both in unison said, he's in.
He got the job.
But actually, as it worked out, if you listen to the Pluto album, some of his bass stuff is actually brilliant. It does complement everything.
So when you made that first album, were you pretty pleased with it? Did you think, wow, we really got something, this is going to be a big commercial success?
I don't think we looked at it as a commercial thing, because that sort of thing in those days wasn't really commercial. That's why we had to record Ragabone Joe. which was John McLeod's song, because he was aiming for a single with that. Other than that, I don't think there was anything overtly commercial on there.
But were you sort of listening, though, to other bands who were sort of beginning to be around at the same time, like Genesis and Yes and Jethro Tull and Pink Floyd, as you say, and Wishbone Ash and people like that? Were you kind of influenced by them and hearing what other people were doing, or were you just...
Well, people have often compared us to Free and a few other people of the around the same time as us, you know. But we tried to plough our own furrow. And
you had an agent, I think, or you were with an agency that put on people like Caravan and Genesis, and you had some big support gigs. But of course, in the early 70s, power cuts were coming because of the miners' strike, I think, and you had loads of gigs cancelled. So that sort of conspired against you building up a big live following, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we did a gig at Guildford City Hall, which is a really big gig. I think we were supporting Medicine Head.
Wow.
And we went down an absolute storm. And we'd approached Terry King, and he'd got the message back that we'd gone down the storm. He called us in and said, yeah, he'd sign us. Oh, apropos the power cuts, yeah. I mean, we did quite a lot. We did a lot of gigs. It was just towards the end when that kicked in, that more or less sort of was the cherry on the dumpling, really, that finishes off.
But you had good sort of reviews. I think it got some good reviews, and it had maybe some airplay. It's seen now as a bit of a lost gem. Is that true? You know, and it's quite a hard, rare thing to be able to get hold of the original copies.
We'll try and find the original Dawn copy. I found one about 10 years ago at a record fair, and it was 80 quid.
80 quid?
And it was all beat up and torn.
Yeah. Do you think the record label Dawn didn't do enough to promote you, really?
No, they didn't. All they could produce, all they could promote at the time was Mungo Jerry.
Yeah.
Which was a bit sad, you know. It was right for them, but not for us. What do you reckon, Al? I'm hogging all the limelight here.
No, go on, carry on. You're doing well.
Oh, I mean, it must have been frustrating that you didn't sell, you know, a lot more copies, and you didn't get the kind of the acclaim, really, and the accolades that you deserved with it, because it was a well-produced album, wasn't it?
It was. Funny enough, it did. I think it sold about 12,000 within about 6 months from initial release, which, well, I know it's not Black Sabbath sort of sales, but it was reasonable. And it sold steadily over the years, and it has never fallen into the bargain bucket bracket.
Well, that's good.
You see it on
eBay.
you see people asking for it on Discogs and things like that.
Because in a sense, I guess you were quite difficult to categorize, to describe, because it was a mixture of psychedelic rock, maybe hard rock, US rock, prog rock, some blues, you know, but I mean, you'd had this musical sort of apprenticeship throughout some of those other bands that I talked about. So the level of musicianship was really, really good.
Well, it's for other people to say, but I think so, yeah. I'd like to think so, yeah.
So your own separate ways and did other things. We'll talk about Dry Ice later. And, you know, you did a lot of sessions for other people and so on and so forth. You met up again during the 90s and started doing some recording. Was with a view to going full time and coming back again then?
Not really. Alan had the studio in his house, a 16-track. And I used to go around there about once a week, and we just started putting tracks down. Not really with Pluto in mind, but just playing tracks. You know, we'd finish one of mine, then do one of Alan's, and then I think we had about 10 tracks in the bin.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to get something down, you know, just for because we had, as you say, Paul, we had songs that we just wanted to get them recorded and kind of see what happens.
But then you sold your recording equipment, which I guess was what the old analog tape recorder, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was getting really hard to maintain. It's like it's the size of a washing machine, and you know, you had the 2-inch, you know, tapes, you know, and I just couldn't maintain it anymore. You know, it's just getting so expensive, and you know, it was always going wrong. And but fortunately, I kept all the tapes that we did.
And then somebody was able to get them into a digital format for you. And then you thought about, you know, again, a few years after that, either overdubbing and playing over them. And then you got a drummer called Nick Fox. So did you start to record the whole lot again, or did you use some of those original tapes?
No, those tracks that we did were done to a click track, which turned out in the end to be good because it's so tight. When you play to a click track, you can't really go out of time.
Yeah.
So when Lars sent us to the White House studio in Weston-super-Mare, like 18 months ago, I knew a guy called Foxy, Nick Fox down here, who plays in local bands down in Newquay. I said, would you be able to play to a click track? Because some drummers aren't that keen on it. And he said, no problem. When we got in the studio, he took to it straight away, and
absolutely
he was brilliant. He nailed it straight away.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of drummers just cannot do that. You know, it's just too strict.
And you got into it as well. You know, everything gelled for you, and you were able to write these songs and re-record bits, and it was all very smooth for this album, Journey's End, right?
Well, most of it was already recorded. All we had to do was some overdub vocals, a few guitar overdubs. Alan had most to do on his vocals, didn't you, Al?
Yeah. And fortunately, I still got reasonably half decent voice, so we managed to get away with it.
Do you think it's better than the debut album 50 years before?
I personally think so. I think it is moved on from there. But that's
it's not the album we would have made.
No.
If the group had carried on and we'd made one a year or two later. Because we should have been in the same sort of writing vein. But like Alan says, as things have moved on, some of my stuff has gone a bit more left field, different tunings, slide, acoustic stuff.
Yeah, I love the production on it, and I love the sound, the electric guitars, and then acoustic ones on a couple of blues. The song Work Out a Plan actually is about climate change, isn't it? Which you were writing about long before it became fashionable to do so.
Yeah, that was, well, long before what's the name was born. I've forgotten her name now. But yeah, no, thinking of like talking about gangs, you know, sort of like they're knifing each other now, you know, and climate change and governments, you know, sort of not getting things right. Yeah. And that song was written in the 70s, round about I think that was around about 1974, 75. And
I love the song Natalie as well, and Sunday Best, and the song Westwood Blues 2 is sort of a retake on a song from the first album, isn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Westwood. Yeah. That was recorded literally on the room I'm in now, on a radio cassette
Wow.
I had Ian McCutcheon and Alan Wall and Adam Parfitt. Adam Parfitt played the mandolin. Now, Adam has played with groups like Mojave 3 and Slow Dive. And he came around, he played the mandolin. Ian McCutcheon played just his one drum. And never thought we'd go any further than that, but then I got it transferred onto a CD and it sounded quite good, so we put it on the album. And it's a link back to the album as well.
Yeah. So what do you think of it yourselves now? You've had plenty of time to digest it and hear it since it was originally released in 2020, but it's very much a modern day version of Pluto. It doesn't sound out of place. The recording techniques don't sound out of place. The sound doesn't sound out of place. What do you think of it, both of you? Alan?
Yeah, no, I genuinely do. I'm just so, I mean, I actually do play it quite a lot on the car radio when I'm driving along, and it's a real, to me, it's like a drive along kind of thing, it's I don't know what to say really. I'm just really pleased with it.
Because you're being very modest. Paul, what do you reckon then?
Yeah, I think I like it. I think it's good. All the people that have got it and bought it, a lot of my friends have bought it. They all think it's great.
Yeah.
Have you played it to younger people, whether it was your sons or whatever? And if so, what sort of reaction have they had to it?
Well, most of the friends I've got down here are all much younger than me and they all love it. I've got a lot of friends in America that got the album and they like it.
Yeah, yeah. Same here really. It's my family, my granddaughter and daughter and so on, friends again in America and in Europe, they all just love it, I mean, I haven't heard a bad word at all said about it so far.
We're talking to Alan Warner and Paul Gardner of Pluto about their 2020 album of new songs, which is called Journey's End. I must say I was very pleased to give it a listen and to hear about it, because I hadn't come across you first time around in the 70s. So let's talk a bit more then about Dry Ice with you, Paul, if that's okay. I mentioned you'd been up in a band called Jack's Union. Tell us a bit about what you remember of that band, because you had quite a famous stage act, didn't you, where you had a tailor's dummy, which you cut up, I think.
Well, we did, yeah. We used to smash up the tailor's dummy. I used to use blood capsules. Sometimes I'd push the PA speaker over and lie on the speaker and just turn my head as if I was biting into someone's neck with these blood capsules. I remember once at Middle Earth in Covent Garden, someone called an ambulance because they thought I'd had an accident. So yeah, it's, crazy times, yeah.
Is this where Jimi Hendrix and Pete Townsend got the idea from, or were you doing what they were doing already?
Well, we were all doing about the same time, certainly before Alice Cooper was doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know if he was ever in the audience. And this thing of leaving your guitar on the stage and just walking off with feedback, I've never ever seen anyone else do that before. That was before Hendrix. And
yeah. So at this stage, after that, you formed Dry Ice, I think, didn't you, with Terry Sullivan to start with. You had sessions on the John Peel radio show. You supported Rory Gallagher, his band of the time, Taste, and Hawkwind. Tell us about the recording and the coming together of Dry Ice back in the day, before we talk about the remastering of the songs.
well, before that we were the three-piece, so we advertised for No, and the bass guitarist left. We advertised another bass guitarist, and the bass guitarist came along with his mate who was a guitarist. But they were both so good, we said, okay, we'll become a four-piece then, you know, with another guitar. And then we got another vocalist in. Can't quite remember how that happened. And yeah, we've got a recording contract with B&C. They sent us into IBC Studios in London, big studio where all the big bands recorded. And we recorded it over about 4 days.
Wow.
Which is pretty good going in those days.
And to write those kind of songs, were you at first sort of jamming to get a riff, then get a melody, and then sort of develop it from there? How did it work, Paul?
I wrote all the songs, just write them at home, go into the studio or into the recording and say, this is a song.
Right.
And then they just play along, you know?
But was it true they didn't get released? The album didn't come out or not?
No, just one single was released, Running to the Convent, and Nowhere to Go was the B-side.
Why was that? Why didn't, given you got all these songs, why didn't an album come out?
I think the album was due for later in the year, like November sometime, but we'd sort of broken up by then.
Oh,
The band
right.
only lasted about 9-10 months, unfortunately.
So in 2018, it was released on Secret Records, Dry Ice, the remastering of the tracks from the original master tapes. There are 14 tracks on it. How did all that happen then? Did you still have the originals?
No, about 2018, early 2018, quite randomly out of the blue, I got a messenger post from Lars.
At Secret Records?
Yeah, saying, I'm Lars Griegel, we have bought the rights out and we found your master tapes in the back of a old dustbin or something. We really like them. We're going to release them. So I worked with him. I wrote the sleeve notes, sent him all the ads I had of us supporting other people, all the information I had, and it all went into the booklet, and they did it and released it.
And what do you think, all these years later? I mean, the material is still pretty fresh, isn't it?
Yeah, I never thought it'd see the light of day. It was on SoundCloud.
Right.
And lots of people liked it there, but
the single Running to the Convent got quite a lot of airplay at the time.
It did, yeah. It was record of the week for Annie Nightingale, I think.
Right. I mean, again, Fake It. It's a bit like The Who, or maybe Speed It Up, Electric Buddy Holly. It's got a great guitar riff in that, I think. And that's all you, yeah?
The lead guitar riff is the other guitarist, John.
Right.
And I'm playing with him on that.
Right. So what was it like to hear all those songs again and you know, sort of take you back in time almost, I imagine? What did you feel?
You're right. It just brings up all the old memories of where we played, and you know, unfortunately, the other guitarist passed away in 2009. But yeah, he was a brilliant guitarist.
Do you wish you hadn't broken up when you did, and that you know, you could have gone into bigger things, or do you just look back and say it was one of those things? This is what the music business is sometimes like. You have highs, you have lows, you have near misses, and you have misses. Yeah.
Oh, I must just correct myself there. It's not John, it's Chris Serenovich, the guitarist. Yeah, it's a shame, but they both came round one night and said they were leaving. So not much I could do about that.
Mm.
Me and Terry carried on for a little while, but wasn't ever the same. And then Terry wandered off and joined the Nations.
Of course, and they had a big hit with Northern Lights, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant record, that.
But do you still listen to a lot of music, Paul? And I know you've
Oh
not
yeah, music's my life.
Rare?
Music's my life, yeah. Music and Leicester City Football Club.
Oh, wow. Congratulations in the cup.
Yes. Oh, wow. I'm still coming down from that.
Oh, yeah, brilliant. And what sort of music? Are you still, guitar-based rock, or you like all sorts?
All sorts, really. I mean, I played with Trees for a while.
Of course, yeah.
R.I.P. Celia about 4 months ago. So I listened to, I like acoustic stuff,
Yeah.
rock stuff. I'm a bit past the really heavy rock now.
Yeah. And if a Foundation song comes on the radio, do you turn it up or do you turn it down?
Have a little giggle and listen to it. But the thing is, the Foundation did some good rock stuff, but it's never really played.
Right. Tell me about that then, Alan.
Yeah. There's one called I'm Gonna Be a Rich Man, which I've got like a rock kind of riff going. And it was, when you hear one of those Blondie ones and ELO, a lot of people think that we copied it from them, but of course the Foundations was before Blondie and ELO.
Miles before.
I'm trying to think of that Blondie one and the ELO one. I can't think of the titles at the moment, but anyway, they're both famous ones by Blondie and ELO. But that was really rocky, guitar intro, and which I'm quite proud of. But unfortunately, never really got anywhere for the Foundations.
And take me back. We can't talk about all of those bands I mentioned. You played in the Track as the Dwellers, the Lee Side is Sect, but you played in this instrumentals only group at the age of 13. Were you allowed to do that legally at that time or not?
Well, I suppose it was a little bit different back then, wasn't it? You could sort of nip into a pub, and I wasn't actually really drinking as such then. Lemonade.
No.
Well, you were doing sort of the Dwayne Eddy stuff and the Ventures stuff, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I when I joined the Skeletones, I was trying to play really fast, and flashy, and the keyboard player didn't like it, so he got me chucked out. That was quite short-lived. You've
written a guitar book or two, teaching other people to pick up the guitar. So was playing the instrument for you something you just took to like a duck to water, or did you have tuition and follow the Bert Whedon book?
No, I didn't have any tuition. I remember my first guitar. It came with this guitar tutor book, and it had all this music inside, Crows on Telegraph Wires. And it had a picture of a guy on the front with a tuxedo and a lovely bow tie, and an old jazz guitar. And of course, the stuff inside, it was When the Saints Go Marching In and Go Tell Aunt Rhody. And of course, it weren't for me at all. I mean, I did try and pick up the dots, but I made several attempts to read music, but they didn't have tablature back then like they do nowadays, which are in my books include the dots and tablature. So
yeah,
so it's all moved on since then.
And that's been a good earner, along with royalties from the Foundations down here.
Yeah. It's very handy.
And I mentioned, Paul, that you recorded with the legendary producer Joe Meek, right? Was that in his? He used to do the recordings in his home in the upstairs in Holloway, didn't he?
The famous Holloway studio, yeah. I mean, he had a penchant for flaring up and going mental, but I must say, take as you find, he was okay with us. He
Fortunately.
but he made us fire the drummer we had, which we did. We made some recordings with him. He signed us up. He also signed me to a separate songwriters contract to write for other people. But then basically that's the last we heard. As far as I know, nothing was released. Unless it was, and I don't know. There's probably some stuff lying around, some of that we recorded. I gave him 5 or 6 songs, which I thought were suitable for some of the other people he had there. The Outlaws, I think, were one lot. Can't remember some of them.
He famously had
people like the Honeycombs.
Yeah.
Beachcombers, was it? Yeah, but he didn't flare up at us, thankfully.
Well, he was just he was very innovative, though, wasn't he? And he created different new sounds, like you think the #1 for the Tornadoes of Telstar.
Oh, the guy was a genius. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You know, recording the drums in the hallway outside on the stairs and doing the vocals in the toilet. Absolute genius, you know.
Now then, obviously it's been really tough for musicians in the last 14 months. I know, Alan, you're meant to be going out for 30 dates or so later this year with the Foundations, and possibly then next year to Los Angeles, playing at the Whiskey Go-Go Club, right?
Whiskey Go-Go, yeah, that's with the Filthy Rotters, we're called.
What do they play? What sort of music? Originals?
Well, the thing is, we're working on it, starting work on it in a few months' time. We're actually going over there to help out these other guys. I don't really know too much about it at the moment. So I'm just waiting for the set list to arrive and the stuff that's got to be learnt. So not too sure at the moment, but really looking forward to it. Yeah, we've got a few dates there.
Paul, do you think you'll play live in front of an audience again?
I doubt it. That's sort of what I called the album Journey's End. For me, it is. Used to go and sometimes they'd drag me up at the Red Lion down the road on an open mic night. I said, well, do you know who I am?
Well, this is in Newquay in Cornwall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a shame. But I mean, I mean, do you play guitar at home for fun and amusement or not?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I pick it up now and again, but I've got bad arthritis in my hands.
Oh.
So it tends to be just slide now. That's all I can manage.
But Alan, you're in fine fettle, and I mean, do you have to, in order to stay match fit for going out on the road, sort of pick it up on a regular basis just to stay in tune, so to speak? I mean, you know, keep the finger subtlety and so on.
I mean, I've always wanted to keep learning new stuff all the time anyway. You know, and some of it's quite challenging as well. And I mean, I've got arthritis, but it's rheumatoid arthritis. But funny thing is, a guitar seems to be the thing that's keeping my fingers, you know, okay. At first, when I was diagnosed with that, I'd started getting to a stage where I had to try and form a chord as if I was a complete beginner again, and I just couldn't do it. But after about half an hour, I was kind of playing around again with it. But when they put me on stuff called methotrexate, and since then it's just got better and better. So fingers crossed.
A few older guys, and even you around, if they get back on the road, whether it's Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend in The Who, or Rod and Colin Blundstone in the Zombies, and obviously Bruce is 70, I think, and McCartney's still out there. There's a whole load of people. It'd be great to see the foundations. In the meantime, we've been speaking to Alan Warner and Paul Gardner about their recently issued album, Journey's End. They're Pluto, and it's just a trio. Really Nick Fox on drums and Paul and Alan on guitars, which is really, really good album. And then also Dry Ice, Paul's band, with the album Never Surfaced back in the day. But both of these releases you'll find on the Secret Records label. And if you want to find out more about them, they're on their website, secretrecordslimited.com. So Dry Ice, the album is called Dry Ice, the band Pluto, and Journey's End. We could talk all afternoon, really, Alan and Paul, but it's been fantastic to get some really interesting memories and to share how these songs and CDs were put together. Thank you so much for your time. Really good talking to you.
And you, Mike, thanks for your time.
You, yes, we really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it.
We got there. We got
there
it
in the end after all the technicalities.
Yeah.